if you're an inkhead like me, you need to watch this video. This Sumi ink went above and beyond my expectations in all of the right ways, and I can't recommend it enough. So let's not waste any more time and finally take a look at the Yashitomo Vermilion Sumi Ink. Roll that intro. What's up guys, I'm Jay Rod of battlebrawlerproductions. If you're new channel, welcome and craft amazing comic book style illustrations, variety of different mediums. And today's a special video because as you heard from the beginning, we are taking a look at Yashitomo's Vermilion Sumi Ink. This is one I've been wanting to make some art with for a while now guys, so this is going to be a very special video. Now I've used Sumi ink in the past before, but what makes this one special is the brand Yashitomo and the fact that it's a colored Sumi ink. Taking a look at Yashitomo's website, it says, Vermilion is an ancient traditional red-orange color used in hand lettering, manuscript seals, and ink paintings, and used in Asia by calligraphy or painting teachers to correct/critique students' works. This water-resistant ink is opaque and dries to a matte finish, used directly from the bottle for a dip pen calligraphy and brush painting, mixed with black ink to create a rich brown or warm black calligraphy ink. It's also vegan. And this ink sells for $6.99 to $12.99 depending on where you go for 2 fluid ounces. Now Yashitomo has specialized in making some very beautiful, very unique art supplies. I've taken a look at some of their inks in the past and even some of their watercolors. So this right here was one that I was super excited for when I heard about it. And what makes this video even special is that this bottle right here was a gift from my friend Mackenzie. So thank you very much, Mackenzie. Let's waste no more time and sample the ink. Alright, first, right off the bat, this is an absolutely beautiful shade of orange. I want to see what this looks like with my brush. It has a very beautiful, oh my gosh, that looks amazing. It honestly makes me think of Halloween. Like, it gives me that pumpkin orange vibe. That looks amazing. Oh, that's a beautiful, beautiful ink. Now remember, this ink said that it is water resistant, which means it's not waterproof, so it will fade if you put water over it. It's also going to dry matte, and it also said that it's opaque. Yeah, I can see that this one's going to be more on the opaque side. Not completely opaque, but we can definitely layer with it, which is good because I have a very fun plan for today's illustration. This just looks amazing. I really want to compare and contrast this to some other inks that I have, so while I'm not going to compare it to every ink I own, I do want to get a good kind of idea of the quality of this ink. One thing I like about Sumi inks is that when they're waterproof, they tend to also be alcohol marker proof. Not all the time, and so I like to use them with my normal comic book style of illustration. This one here isn't waterproof, and I am just blown away by how smooth and vivid this ink is. I mean, that is a gorgeous shade of orange, and I know that's subjective, but man, does this look and feel beautiful in my tools. So there's a couple of tests I want to do in addition to the swatching, but let's go ahead and get the swatches out of the way. First off, that again just looks amazing. Absolutely in love with that shade of orange. But I want to see how that compares to one of my other favorite orange inks, the Pantone. My acrylic Amsterdam. Some P.H. Martin's. P.H. Martin's Technical Orange. The Winsor Newton. Comparing them directly, the Yashitomo is almost completely dry versus the other inks that still have quite a bit of wetness right there, especially the Pantone, which I did lay quite a bit heavy, and the Amsterdam acrylic base. Now, in person, the Amsterdam looks almost neon. Like, it's such a bright, very vivid orange. So comparing it to the Yashitomo, it's a beautiful, vivid orange when you first put it down on the page, but when it starts to dry, it takes on this richness that I really love. I absolutely love how this looks. I don't want to say it's a copper orange, but it gives me a little bit of that vibe. Now comparing it directly to the Pantone ink does match in terms of a richness, but not the actual hue itself. Amsterdam, like I said, is borderline neon. The Dr. P.H. Martin's Radiant Concentrated Watercolor Tangerine does not come close. I mean, this thing looks way more pink when you compare them side by side, especially in person. Has far more of a warmer hint to it and just doesn't really match that richness. Now interestingly, the Dr. P.H. Martin's Technical ink does match a little bit of that richness, but not that color. And I think the closest is the Winsor & Newton orange drawing ink, which is very interesting. I was not expecting this one to match that one so close. Now I want to do 2 additional tests before we make our illustration. One, I want to see how these are going to layer on top of these 2 Tombow Funanuskis. And then in addition, I want to see how they're going to layer on top of my 2 favorite pencils. Taking a closer look, I have to say this is pretty much what I expected, give or take. Starting from the bottom up, the red Tombow Funanuski is still visible, but it got a little more synergized into the color scheme with the orange wash on top. The orange Tombow Funanuski practically disappeared. It's still visible, but it's way more in sync, it's way more washed out. It definitely doesn't have the same pop that it did against the white. The red Prismacolor pretty much did the same as the red Tombow Funanuski. It's just one of those things where since it's also wax-based, the ink didn't fully go over it, so there's a little bit of areas where that red is peeking out right in here. The blue did exactly what I thought it would, and that is it took on a green hue. Remember, orange is a combination of yellow and red, so when we put blue into the mix, that yellow is going to mix with it, and we're going to get a green hue. Of course, it depends on the type of orange. If you're leaning more on red, it's possible to get a slight purple hue, though not as common as you may think. Now that I have that figured out, I do want to see how this ink is going to water down with a wash. I think it'd be really cool to use this ink in layers to build up that transparency, and ooh, that's nice. That is absolutely beautiful. Love how that looks. We can even take a little bit of that orange and just right in there. Ah, that looks so nice. For those of you who are new to the channel, I like to use liquid inks as if they're watercolors so that I can go in and create my layers and depths, because this is going to inform how I'm going to make my piece. Now, what is that piece? For today's illustration, I put down on paper the first thing that came to my mind when I saw this absolutely gorgeous shade of orange. An astronaut on Mars. This poor astronaut has found himself alone on Mars, in front of her grave, with Earth in the distance and Mars's 2 moons in sight. This man has to travel across the deserts of Mars to get home. Let's follow him on his journey as we bring this to life with the Yagitomo Vermilion Sumi Ink. The first step of this piece wasn't going in with ink, but instead going in with masking fluid. Now, for those of you who don't know what masking fluid is, it's essentially a liquid latex that you can paint onto the surface that you're working on. Let it dry and it creates a barrier. So you can go in with as much paint as you like, and you don't have to worry about that paint going into the areas that you masked off. It's actually very similar to Frisket film, another type of material that I've mentioned before on the channel. But what's nice about this is it specifically works really well with more liquid mediums like ink and watercolor. Now, I'm going in with PBO, which is my personal favorite brand. It's not perfect, but it has performed really well for me. In fact, one of the few problems I've actually ever had with this brand ironically happened with this piece, which I find pretty interesting. But I'm going in and I'm masking off the areas that I want to preserve essentially 100% white that I'm going to go in later on and create definitions separate from the background. So that's going to be my astronaut, cross, the moons, Earth, and the rocks. Now, I like to give my masking fluid an hour to dry, and now I'm not going to go in with 100% ink from the bottle. That's because I want to build up my values and tones. I'm pretty much treating this piece as if it's a watercolor piece, building up my layers slowly. I went in with my lightest tone to create an initial layer, and I'm keeping the page tilted to help with the flow to ensure that it's as smooth as possible. This is a similar technique used in watercolor. I'm just essentially putting in my mood setter. Now, while it's still wet, I'm going to go ahead and go in and apply my other washes. I'm going to let the ink mix naturally, kind of pick where it wants to settle. I have an idea of my range of values and where I want them, but one thing I like about ink is 9 out of 10 times when I put down the ink, it will pretty much go and sit in a way that is far more natural than I can get. And again, since I have that masking fluid, I don't have to worry about going over areas that I don't want the wash to go over. And I'm pretty much just going to start to build up my values. That's really what this step is. Going in and just starting to put those initial tones, those initial values, really trying to go out and sculpt out the lighting and enhancing where the ink naturally sets to fit the mood that I'm going for. Now, there was a few areas that I knew I was going to have to go over quite a few times, but before I do that, I have to give myself a solid foundation to work on. After that first initial layer was dry, it was time to go in and start enhancing and building it up. Starting with the sky, I wanted to get a little bit more of an orange tint to everything, so I took my lightest wash and just went in and just trying to add a little bit more texture, a little bit more value. After that, I flipped it over, and where my ink naturally sat down, I'm really trying to just go in and add those values and tones slowly. That's something that I really want to emphasize, is that this is a step that you have to take your time with, because it's super easy to rush it. It's super easy to go in with the ink not fully dry, and you get really weird when you're bleeding. It's just something that you have to sit down, be calm, and just be diligent with it. And that's what I'm doing here. There's also a couple of areas like his shadow and footprints that I really want to have that darker tone. Even though I know later on in the piece I'm going to go in with that 100% orange from the bottle, I do want to start building up those tones and values just to get a little bit more organic shape. So I'm just going in and defining those shadows specifically a little bit extra in this step. After giving everything another hour to dry, it was time to go in and remove the masking fluid. This is one of the first times I've ever had a tear. Normally this stuff is perfect, no discoloring, easy to spot, but here for some reason that I just don't know, it decided to tear the paper. And what's crazy, I didn't have any other tears on my paper from the masking fluid. Later on, I did have some severe tears on the edge of the paper from removing the tape. Now the tool that I'm using is a rubber cement pickupper. It's designed to remove rubber cement and liquid latex. I like to use it because normally with my finger I do run the risk of tearing the paper. Now with that masking fluid removed, it was time to go in with my quill to add in some detail. I'm pretty much going in and defining my astronaut a little bit, defining some of the rocks. And I do want to point out that this is not 100% ink in my quill. It's actually one of my ink washes. I added a little bit more ink to make it more intense, but one thing I like about ink, especially colored ink, is that it does change depending on the tool that you use. So going in and using it in my quill actually made it a lot darker than what it would have been with a brush. And also with a quill, I'm able to get these beautiful clean lines. Now for my favorite part of the illustration, which is interestingly normally the first thing that I do. So it's kind of fun that it's towards the end here, and that is going in and inking the main character, this lonely astronaut. Now interestingly, this is actually the third time that I've drawn this one particular astronaut. I first drew him in my Pillars of Creation piece where I was using the Copic airbrush, and I'm also working on a piece with him for a sci-fi exhibit that I can't talk about right now, at least at the time of filming this video. But yeah, I don't really have a name for him yet. I mean, he's an astronaut in a fairly realistic suit, but with like sci-fi weapons. So what's his story? What's his deal? I don't know. So if you guys have a name for him, let me know and maybe we can name him together. But pretty much all you gotta know is that I'm going in and just doing a little bit of line variety, nothing too crazy, just giving him a little bit of dimension, making him pop a little bit more with those nice outlines. Doing a little bit more definition on the moons, going in and adding that 100% orange, so this is straight from the bottle, just to add that little extra pop to everything. Pretty much just defining it one more time, giving it that last pass that it needs to really bring it to life. And I have to say, I love this shade of orange. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous. I love this ink. Mackenzie, thank you so much for giving this to me as a gift. That was so sweet of you. And this is something where I am so happy to have it, not only in my collection of ink, also in my artistic tool belt. Seriously, I look at this ink and there's so many different things that I see. Yes, the first thing that came to my mind was the planet Mars, but I'm kind of your stereotypical weird kid that loves astronauts, space, dinosaurs, superheroes, comics. If you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you kind of get the deal at this point. But I can definitely see myself using this ink, especially for future projects like a Halloween special or doing something with pumpkins. I love this ink. I can't wait to make more art with it. This thing looks so good. So let's go ahead and finish this project and get into that epic reveal. And we're done. And guys, I absolutely love how this piece came out. Easily in my top 20 favorite inked illustrations of all time. Seriously, this came out absolutely perfect, exactly what I had in mind, and if you guys like this, I will have this available for posters, t-shirts, and other merch that you can get. Just click the link in the description down below. And while you're down there, go ahead and leave a comment on what you guys think of the piece. Do you like it? Do you hate it? What can I improve on? I love hearing your guys' feedback because not only does it help me become a better artist, but a better content creator. But putting the piece that I'm incredibly proud of to the side, let's go ahead and do my closing thoughts on this ink. Now, I've used Yashitomo Sumi inks in the past, along with some of their watercolors, and out of all the things I've tried, this right here is my absolute favorite thing they have made. Seriously, this was an absolute joy and treat to use. I love the effects I was able to get. It layered beautifully, it thinned out amazing with no granulation. The ink is incredibly smooth in my dip pen and brush, and was just such a treat to use in a watercolor style, and in a traditional ink style. This color here is absolutely perfect. While orange is not my favorite color, and this is totally subjective, I have to be honest and say that the shade of orange is beautiful. Seriously, thank you Mackenzie so much for getting this bottle for me so that I can make this video and experience the joy of this Sumi ink. If you have not tried it, please go ahead and pick up a bottle if you can find one. It's absolutely worth the asking price. This right here gets the Battle Brawler seal of approval. By the way, video not sponsored. Seriously guys, I absolutely love the coloring. I love how the ink feels. This was an absolute joy to use, and I can't wait to make more illustrations with this in the future. So let me know what I should draw next using this ink, and if you enjoyed it, like the video, subscribe to the channel for more art and animation based content, and remember, I'm J-Rod at battlebrawlerproductions. I draw power in my own soul, and all I ask is that you guys keep being creative.